Hello, my dear friend. Welcome to our special place. Welcome to VUS, Learning English Podcast. My name is Anna, and I am so happy you are here with me today. Today, we are going to talk about something very special. We will talk about learning, and we will talk about remembering. Sometimes learning can feel hard. We read something wonderful, but then we forget it. Today, we will learn a new way, a way to keep the good things we learn, a way to build a library of knowledge in our minds. It will be a warm and easy journey. Thank you so much for joining me. Your time is a gift. I am very thankful for it. Before we start, I have a small invitation for you. If you enjoy our time together, please think about following or subscribing. It is a small click for you, but it helps our podcast grow. It helps us reach more learners just like you. And I would love to know where you are. Where are you listening from today? Are you in Taiwan, America, Japan, Ethiopia? Please tell me in the comments. It makes me so happy to see where all my friends are. Okay, are you ready? Let's begin our gentle journey together. Have you ever read a wonderful book? You read the last page, you close the book, and you feel so happy. You feel full of new ideas. You feel smarter. You feel like you can do anything. But then, 1 week goes by. A friend asks you about the book. They say, "What was that book about?" And you feel quiet. An awkward silence is in the air. Your mind tries to find the details. It searches and searches. You remember the color of the cover. Maybe you remember one simple sentence about the story, just one. But what about the big ideas, the ideas that changed your thinking? The good advice you wanted to use? Where did it all go? It is all gone. It is like a fuzzy picture in your mind. You can't see it clearly. And this feeling is not a good feeling. It is frustrating. It feels like you wasted your time. All those hours you spent reading, all your focus and your energy, it feels like it just disappeared. It feels like pouring water into a bucket. But the bucket has holes in it. The water goes in, and then the water comes right out. Nothing stays inside. This happens to many, many people. It happens to almost everyone. It is a very human thing. So we think it is normal. We just accept it. We say things to ourselves, things like, my memory is bad, or I just can't remember books. But I want to tell you a secret. That is not true. The problem is not your memory. The problem is not your brain. The problem is your system. It is the way you learn. Forgetting is normal for our minds. It is the default setting. But we can change that setting. Yes, you can absolutely change it. The reason we forget is simple. We learn how to read information, but no one teaches us how to keep information. Reading is passive. It is like you let words wash over you, like a gentle wave. Keeping information is active. I like to call it digestion. Digestion is an active process. It means you break down the information. You connect it to your life. You make it a part of who you are. For the last 7 years, I have used a system. I used it in medical school. Learning about medicine needs a lot of memorization. I used it in business. Thinking in business needs a good strategy. This system is simple. It has 2 stages, 2 simple steps. This system helps you to digest information. It helps you to keep what you learn. This is not about having a super memory. It is not about reading a book 10 times. No. It is about changing how you meet information. You only need to change it one time. This system is why I can remember difficult medical facts from years ago. It is why I can use lessons from business books I read a long, long time ago, 5 years ago even. And today I'm going to teach you this system. I will show you every step, step by step. I'm going to show you how to build a library. Not a library of books on your shelf. A library of knowledge inside your head. A library that stays with you forever. Does that sound good? Wonderful. Let's continue. Section 1. The illusion of learning, the real reason. We forget. Before we build our new system, we need to understand the old one. We need to see why the old way of learning does not work very well. Why is it flawed? The problem is a misunderstanding. We misunderstand what real learning is. We are taught that learning is about taking things in. We think if we read more books, we get smarter. If we listen to more podcasts, we get smarter. If we watch more courses online, we must be getting smarter. So we try to go fast. We learn about speed reading. We listen to audiobooks at 3 times the normal speed. We watch many online classes in one weekend. We feel very productive. We feel like we are doing a lot. So much information is flowing past us. This is what I call the illusion of learning. An illusion is something that is not real. It looks real, but it is not. It is the feeling of getting smarter. But the knowledge is not really staying in your brain. It is not building a home there. It is like eating too much food too fast. You can call it information gluttony. You are stuffing your brain with information, but your brain is not turning it into real understanding. It is not being metabolized. Science has studied this, and what scientists found is very interesting. A long, long time ago, in the 1880s, there was a German psychologist. His name was Hermann Ebbinghaus. He did some very important experiments. He did the experiments on himself. He wanted to understand memory. He wanted to understand why we forget. What he discovered is very famous now. It is called the forgetting curve. A curve is a line that is not straight. His work showed that we forget new things very quickly. There is a big, steep drop. In his studies, he used nonsense syllables. These are words that have no meaning. He found that if he did not review them, he forgot them very fast. After only a few hours, a very big part of the information was gone. After 24 hours, maybe 70% of it was gone. Imagine that, 70%. And after 1 week, it could be as high as 90%. 90% of the information was gone. Think about that for a moment. If you read a book today and you do nothing else by next week, you might forget almost all of it, the vast majority of it. The exact numbers can change. It depends on what you're learning, but the idea is the same. The principle holds. Your brain is an amazing, wonderful thing, but it is made to forget. It is wired to forget. And this is not a mistake. It is not a bug. It is a feature. It is supposed to work this way. Why? Because we see and hear and feel so many things every second. Our brain gets so much information all the time. If your brain kept everything, you would feel overwhelmed. It would be too much. So forgetting is like a filter. It is your brain's natural way to clean up. Your brain must decide. It decides what is important to keep, and it decides what is okay to throw away. What is disposable? Here's the problem. When you read a book passively, When you just let your eyes move over the words, you are sending your brain a signal. The signal is, this is not important. This is disposable. You can throw this away. Just looking at words is not a strong enough signal. It does not tell your brain that this information matters. In the moment, it feels important. But when you stop reading, your brain starts its cleaning process. It starts to forget. So when you feel sad that you can't remember, please know this. It is not your fault. It is not a personal failure. You're not bad at remembering. No, you are just seeing what happens with a flawed process, a process that does not work well. We often treat our brain like a computer hard drive. We think we can just download information into it. But our brain is not a hard drive. Our brain is more like a muscle. Think about the muscles in your arms or legs. Knowledge is not downloaded. Knowledge is built. Like a muscle, it needs effort. It needs you to be active. It requires active engagement. Imagine you want stronger arms. You want your biceps to grow. Would you just watch other people lift weights? No, of course not. That would be silly. To build a muscle, you have to lift the weights yourself. It is the same with knowledge. You cannot expect your knowledge to grow by just watching words go by. That is too passive. So what is the answer? What is the solution? The solution is not to try harder with the broken system. It is not to read faster. It is not to take in even more information. The solution is to change the process. The solution is to use a new system. A system that sends strong signals to your brain. Signals that shout, this is important. Pay attention. Do not delete this. This is a part of us now. You need to change from being a passive consumer to being an active digester. And that is what our new system is all about. That is what the two-stage process will teach you to do. Are you ready to learn it? Good. Let's go. Section 2. The two-stage system, an overview. The system is very simple. It has served me well for 7 years. It is built on one big idea, one core principle. We separate learning into 2 parts, 2 distinct stages. Stage 1 is capture, engage. Stage 2 is digest, synthesize. That is it. That is the whole framework. Capture and engage. Then digest and synthesize. Most people only do stage 1, and they only do a little bit of it. They do a half-hearted version. But the magic is in stage 2. The remembering happens in stage 2. The real learning happens in stage 2. Let's use an analogy to make this clearer. An analogy is a way to compare 2 things. Imagine you want to cook a beautiful meal, a gourmet meal, a very special dinner. Stage 1, capture, engage, is like going to the grocery store. It is your shopping trip. You walk through the store. You look at all the food. You choose your ingredients. You pick the best vegetables. They are fresh and colorful. You choose the right piece of meat or fish. You find the freshest herbs. You put everything into your shopping cart. You pay for it and you bring it all home. Now you are in your kitchen. Your kitchen counter is full of food. It is full of potential. You have all the raw materials for a wonderful meal. This is what most people do when they read a book. They highlight some sentences. They fold the corner of a page. Maybe they write a few notes in the margin. They have gathered their ingredients. They have their raw materials. But here is the big mistake. This is the crucial mistake. They think having the ingredients is the same as having the meal. They think the work is done, so they stop. They stop right there. And then they are surprised. 1 week later, they look in their refrigerator. What do they see? They see rotting vegetables. The food is old and bad. And in their mind, they have a fuzzy memory. A fuzzy memory of a meal they wanted to cook but never did. Do you see the problem? They never move to the next stage. Stage 2, digest synthesize, is the act of cooking. This is where the transformation happens. You take all those raw ingredients, you take them and you change them. You chop the vegetables. You cook the meat. You mix the herbs and spices. You use heat. You use your skills. You use your effort. You take many separate things and you actively combine them. You synthesize them. You create one single wonderful dish. A meal that gives you energy. A nourishing dish. This is what we must do with our notes from a book. This is what we must do with our highlights. We have to take the raw materials we gathered, and we must actively process them. A meal is more than just its ingredients. And true knowledge is more than just a list of facts. This two-stage way of learning works so well. Why? Because it works with your brain. It aligns with how your brain makes strong, lasting memories. Stage 1 gets your brain ready. It is the first time you see the information. It primes the pump. Stage 2 is where the real work happens. It is the heavy lifting. This is where memory consolidation happens. This is where you make memories strong. In stage 2, you do things like active recall. Active recall means you try to remember information without looking at it. You also do elaboration. Elaboration means you connect new ideas to what you already know. These are two of the most powerful ways to create strong memories. Neuroscience tells us this is true. To help with stage 2, I use a special tool. It is a framework I created. I call it the PACER method. PACER is a name to help you remember. Each letter stands for a word. P is for procedural. A is for analogous. C is for conceptual. E is for evidence. And R is for reference. PACER, PACER. This is a system to sort your knowledge. It helps you classify the information you learn. Think about cooking again. You would not cook a carrot in the same way you cook a steak. They need different methods. It is the same with knowledge. You should not process a how-to guide in the same way you process a deep philosophical idea. They are different types of knowledge. The PACER method gives you 5 different recipes, 5 different ways to digest the notes you captured in stage 1. We will talk about each one. We will go through them in detail one by one. But first, you must become good at stage 1. You have to master it. Why? Because the quality of your final meal depends completely on the quality of your ingredients. So let's learn how to gather the best ingredients. Let's master stage 1. Section 3, Stage 1, The Art of Active Capture. The goal of stage 1 is not just to read the book. No, the goal is bigger than that. The goal is to have a conversation with the book. Imagine the author is sitting with you. You are talking to them. This is a big change in thinking. Reading is usually a monologue. A monologue is when one person talks. The author talks, and you listen. We want to change it into a dialogue. A dialogue is when 2 people talk. The author talks, and you talk back. A passive reader just receives information. An active capturer engages with it. You question it. You connect it to your life. This stage is all about creating good raw material. Rich, messy, interesting material. This material will be the fuel for stage 2, our digestion engine. So how do we do it? How do we become an active capturer? Here is how. It starts even before you read the first page. Before you open the book, take a moment. Set an intention. An intention is a plan or a purpose. Ask yourself a simple question. Why am I reading this book? What do you want to get from it? What do you hope to learn? Maybe you want to solve a problem at work. Maybe you want to learn a new skill, like cooking. Maybe you want to understand a new perspective, a different way of seeing the world. Write your answer down. Write it on the first page of a notebook or in a computer file for the book. For example, you could write, I am reading this book about negotiation. I want to learn 3 new ways to talk about my project budget next month. This is a very simple act, but it is very powerful. It prepares your brain. It gives your brain a job to do. It turns your brain into a hunter. You are now actively hunting for answers in the book. Okay, now you can start reading. As you read, your job is to leave your mark, to leave traces of your thinking. A book that you have actively captured should not be perfect and clean. It should not look like a museum object. No, it should look like a battlefield of ideas, messy and full of life. I know some people do not like to write in their books. It can feel wrong, but I want to encourage you to try it. Please reconsider. A book is a tool. It is a tool for thinking. It is not a holy, sacred object. To not write in a book is like buying a beautiful hammer and then never using it to build something. If you really, really cannot write in the book, that is okay. You can use sticky notes or you can use your notebook, but you must have a place to write down your thoughts. You must create a record of your thinking. So, what are the steps? What is the tactical approach? First, you can underline or highlight. Be an aggressive highlighter, but have a rule, a guiding principle. Try not to highlight a whole paragraph. That is too much. If everything is highlighted, then nothing is important. Force yourself to choose just one sentence, the single most important sentence in the paragraph. This small action is an act of thinking. You are making a choice. You are deciding what matters most. Highlighting is a good first step, but it is much better when you combine it with other actions. Second, and this is much more important, you have to write in the margins. The margins are the empty spaces on the side of the page. The margin is where your conversation happens. This is where you talk back to the author. Argue with the author. If they say something and you feel unsure, write it down. Write, I am not so sure about this. Or, this idea is different from what I learned before. Ask questions. Write your questions in the margin. How can I use this in my job? What is the proof for this idea? And here's the most powerful technique of all. Connect the ideas to your own life. This is called elaboration. It is a big word, but the idea is simple. You are building a bridge from the new idea in the book to your own life and your own experiences. When the author talks about a concept, you write in the margin. You write, oh, this is like the problem I have with my team at work. Or, this reminds me of my grandmother. You are hooking the new abstract information onto the strong, stable hooks of your own life. Your personal experiences are very strong hooks. This helps you remember so much better. Third, You can create your own special language, a symbolic language. You do not need to write full sentences every time. That takes too long. Create a shorthand, a simple system of symbols. For example, you can draw a star next to a very important big idea. You can draw an exclamation point next to a surprising fact. You can draw a question mark next to something you want to learn more about later. You can draw an arrow to connect an idea on one page to another idea on a different page. This is your personal code. It makes your notes fast and meaningful. Finally, there is one rule that you cannot skip. It is a non-negotiable rule of this system. At the end of every chapter, every single one, you must stop reading. Pause. Close of the book, put it on the table face down. Now, take your notebook and write down the most important ideas from that chapter. Maybe 3 ideas, maybe 5 ideas. Want. Here's the important part. You must do it from your memory. Do not look at the book, and you must write the ideas in your own words. Not the author's words, your words. This is your first try at active recall. You are forcing your brain to pull out the information it just learned. This action makes the connections in your brain stronger. It strengthens the neural pathways. This is a very simple exercise. It only takes about 5 minutes, but it is so powerful. It is like a small act of digestion, a micro-digestion, and it prepares you perfectly for the big work in stage 2. What about tools? What should you use? Please do not worry too much about tools. Keep it simple. If you have a physical paper book, a good pen is your best friend. That is all you need. If you read on a Kindle or another e-reader, use the highlight and note functions. Later, you can export your notes. You can use a service like Readwise to collect them all. If you're reading articles online, you can use tools like Instapaper, or you can use a web clipper for an app like Notion or Evernote. These tools save the article for you. But remember, the tool is not the important part. The process is the important part. The act of engagement is what matters. The goal of stage 1 is not to have a perfect, clean summary. No. The goal is to create rich, messy, interesting raw material. Your thoughts, your questions, your connections. You have gone to the grocery store. You have gathered your ingredients. Your kitchen counter is full. Now it is time to cook. It is time for stage 2. Section 4. Stage 2. The digestion engine, the pacer method. Welcome to stage 2. This is the part of the system that most people skip. 99% of people never do this. And that is why this part is so special. This is the critical factor. This is what makes all the difference. This is where the hard work happens. And this is where the real learning happens. This is digestion. What do you do? After you finish a book and after you write your summary of the final chapter, just wait. Let the book sit for 1 day or maybe 2 days. Give it a little space. This short break is helpful. It lets the first excitement go away. So you can look at your notes with a clear mind, a more critical eye. Now, your job is to take all your raw materials, your highlights, your notes in the margin, your chapter summaries, and you are going to process them. You are going to cook your meal. But how? How do you process them? This is where our special tool comes in, the PACER method. Remember what PACER stands for? Let's say it again. P is for procedural. A is for analogous. C is for conceptual. E is for evidence. R is for reference. PACER. This is your map. It is a framework to help you understand what kind of knowledge you have, so you can use the right recipe to digest it. You will look through all your notes. For each important idea you find, you will choose a category, and that you will process it using the right method. Let's break down PACER. Let's look at each letter one by one. Are you ready? First is P. P is for a procedural. Procedural knowledge is how-to knowledge. It tells you how to do something. It is a set of steps. It is a technique, a process, a skill. For example, it could be a method for having a difficult conversation. It could be steps for how to make a sales call. It could be instructions for how to do an exercise. It is all about action. So, what is the way to digest this kind of knowledge? The method is very, very simple. It is practice. That's it, practice. There is no other way. You have to do it. You cannot learn to swim just by reading a book about swimming. You have to get in the water. You cannot learn to negotiate just by memorizing some phrases. You have to try it in a conversation. So, when you find a piece of procedural knowledge in your notes, your job is to schedule a time to practice it right away. Find a safe, low-stakes way to practice. This means practice in a situation where it is okay to make mistakes. For example, you read a book about public speaking, you learn a new way to tell a story. That is procedural knowledge. Don't just write it down. That is not enough. Take out your phone, open the Voice Memos app, and record yourself. Record yourself telling a short story like you are giving a speech. Then listen to the recording. How does it sound? Then try again and again. That is practice. Procedural knowledge that you do not practice is useless. It is just trivia. It is not a real skill. So for P, we practice. Next is A. A is for analogous. Analogous knowledge is about connections. It is information that is easiest to understand when you connect it to something you already know very well. Our brains are connection machines. They love to see patterns and build bridges. An analogy is a bridge. It connects the new idea to an old, familiar idea. So the digestion method here is to create and critique analogies. When you find a big, complex idea in your notes, ask yourself a question: what is this like? For example, you are reading a business book. You are trying to understand the difference between a company's vision, strategy, and tactics. These can be confusing words. You can create an analogy. You can compare it to a road trip. What is this like? It is like a road trip. The vision is the destination. Where are you going? We are going to the Grand Canyon. The strategy is the route you choose, the main plan. Are we taking the fast interstate highway or the slow, scenic back roads? The tactics are the small actions you take while driving, changing lanes, stopping for gas, turning the wheel. This makes the idea much clearer, but do not stop there. There is a second, very important step. You must critique your own analogy. Ask yourself, how is this analogy not perfect? Where does this comparison break down? You might think, well, on a road trip, the map is stable. The roads don't change much, but in business, there are competitors, other companies. They might block your road or build a new, faster road. This second step is so important. The process of stretching the analogy and then breaking it forces you to think much more deeply. It gives you a much richer understanding. So for A, we create and critique analogies. Next is C. C is for conceptual. Conceptual knowledge is about big ideas, abstract ideas, theories, mental models. It is the why behind things. This could be a philosophy, like Stoicism. It could be an economic theory. It could be a scientific concept, like evolution. The digestion method for conceptual knowledge is to map it. You need to get the idea out of the book's format. A book is linear. It goes in a straight line. You want to put the idea into a visual format, a spatial format, something you can see all at once. The goal is to create a visual picture of the idea's structure, its architecture. The easiest way to do this is with a mind map. You can use a pen and a blank piece of paper. Put the main concept in the middle of the page. Circle it. Then draw lines like branches from a tree. These branches are for the main arguments or parts of the idea. Then you can add smaller branches for the supporting details. You can use arrows to show how different parts of the idea connect to each other. For example, if you read a book about Stoicism, you could put Stoicism in the center. One main branch could be the dichotomy of control. This is the idea that some things are in our control and some are not. Another branch could be amor fati. This is the idea of loving your fate. You could then draw an arrow between them to show that accepting what you cannot control helps you to love your fate. You cannot create a good, clear map of something you do not understand. So this action forces you to understand. You have to take the author's argument apart, deconstruct it. And then you have to build it again in a new way, reconstruct it. So for C, we map it. Next is E. E is for evidence. Evidence means the facts, the numbers, the statistics, the case studies, and the data. It is the information that supports an argument. It is the what that backs up the why. The mistake many people make is trying to memorize evidence all by itself. They try to remember a statistic with no context. This is very hard and not very useful. It is inefficient. The digestion method here is to store rehearse with applied problems. Let me explain. This means you connect the fact to a real-world situation, and then you use that fact to solve a made-up problem, a hypothetical problem. Let's use the forgetting curve statistic from earlier. The fact is, you can forget up to 90% of new information in 1 week. Instead of just trying to memorize the number 90%, ask yourself a question where you have to use this fact. For example, imagine a new person at my job asks for my advice. They need to study for a big exam. Based on the forgetting curve, what specific advice would I give them? Now you have to think. You have to retrieve the fact and use it as a tool. You might answer, well, I know that you will forget most of what you read in a few days, so you cannot just study everything the night before. That is called cramming. It doesn't work. You need a system to review. I suggest you study and then do a 30-minute review the next day. Then do another review a few days after that. Do you see? Now the fact, 90%, is not just a number. It is anchored to a real-life application. It has a purpose. This is how you turn information into wisdom. So for E, we apply it to problems. Finally, we have R. R is for reference. This last category is for information that you do not need to memorize. You do not need to know it by heart. But you do need to know where to find it and how to find it quickly. This includes things like specific quotes you love, detailed formulas, or long lists of things. The digestion method here is to store use spaced repetition for the most important bits. Let's break that down. For most reference material, your goal is just to have a great searchable system, a place where you can find it when you need it. This is where digital note-taking apps are wonderful. Apps like Notion, Obsidian, or Evernote are perfect for this. When you find a beautiful quote in a book, a quote you want to remember, you can type it into your note system. Then you can add tags. Tags are like keywords. You could tag it with quote and inspiration and habits. You are building your own personal Google, a searchable database of your own wisdom. However, there is a small amount of reference information that is worth memorizing, things like important vocabulary words or key dates in history. For these things, the best technique is spaced repetition software, SRS. Apps like Anki or Quizlet are made for this. You create digital flashcards, a question on the front and the answer on the back. The special software then shows you these cards. It shows them to you at the perfect time, right before you are about to forget them. The time between reviews gets longer and longer, first 1 day, then 3 days, then a week, and so on. This is an incredibly powerful way to memorize discrete facts. The key is to be selective. Don't put everything into your SRS. Choose only the most important foundational facts. So for any piece of reference information, you have a choice. First, ask yourself, do I need to have this in my head, or do I just need to know where to find it? If you just need to find it, put it in your organized notes. If you need to memorize it, put it in an SRS app. So for R, we store it, and sometimes we use spaced repetition. That is the PACER method. Procedural, analogous, conceptual, evidence, reference. This is your engine for digestion. This is how you cook the meal. This is how you turn information into knowledge. Section 5, the proof. The payoff, putting it all together. So that is the whole system. Stage 1, capture, engage, where you talk to the book. Stage 2, digest, synthesize, where you process your notes using the PACER method. It might feel like a lot. So let's walk through one more example. A final, concrete example from start to finish. Let's use a very popular book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Many of you may know this book. Okay, I start stage 1. I get the book and my favorite pen. I read the book and I am an active capturer. I underline sentences that feel important. In the margins, I write my thoughts. I connect his ideas to my own life. James Clear talks about an idea called habit stacking. It means connecting a new habit to an old one. So in the margin, I write, I could use this. I can do 10 push-ups right after I make my morning coffee. My morning coffee is my old habit. The push-ups are the new habit. Then he writes about the 4 laws of behavior change. This sounds very important. So I draw a big star next to it in the margin. I finish a chapter. What do? I close the book. I take out my notebook. And from my memory, I write a quick summary of the chapter in my own words. I do this for every chapter. I have finished the book. I have all my messy, wonderful notes. My ingredients are gathered. Now I wait for a day or two. I let it all settle. Then I begin stage 2. I take out my notes and I use my PACER method. I am ready to cook. I look through my notes. I see my note about the 4 laws of behavior change. The 4 laws are 1, make it obvious. 2, make it attractive. 3, make it easy. 4, make it satisfying. What kind of knowledge is this? I think about PACER. P-A-C-E-R. This is a big idea, a mental model for understanding habits. It is conceptual. What is the recipe for conceptual knowledge? The recipe is to map it. So I take out a blank piece of paper. In the center, I write building a good habit. I draw a circle around it. Then I draw 4 big branches coming from the center, one for each law. Make it obvious. Make it attractive. Make it easy. Make it satisfying. I have now created a visual map of the core idea of the book. It is much clearer to me now. Okay, what's next in my notes? I find my note about habit stacking. The formula is, after my current habit, I will do my new habit. What kind of knowledge is this? P-A-C-E-R. This is a how-to recipe. It is a set of steps for taking action. This is clearly procedural. And what is our recipe for procedural knowledge? It is practice. So I need to practice this. Right now, I take a small sticky note. I write on it. After you press start on the coffee machine, do 10 push-ups. I take this note and I stick it on my coffee machine. I have now put this procedure into my real physical world. I have made it easy to practice. I keep looking at my notes. I see a note about an analogy James Clear used. He wrote that habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. What kind of knowledge is this? This one is easy. It says it is an analogy, so it is analogous. What is the recipe? Create and critique the analogy. So in my notebook, I write, okay, this is like putting money in a savings account. Small deposits of good habits every day don't seem like much. 1 push-up is small, reading 1 page is small. But after many years, the growth is huge. It is exponential. This also means that small bad habits are like credit card debt. A little bit each day can compound into a very big problem over time. By exploring the comparison, I understand the power of tiny habits on a much deeper level. Next, I find a statistic that I highlighted. It is the evidence. The statistic is, a 1% improvement each day for a year means you will be 37 times better. What is the recipe for evidence? It is store rehearse with applied problems. So I don't just try to memorize 37 times. Instead, I create a problem for myself. I write in my notebook, how can I explain the power of small habits to my friend who feels discouraged with learning English? Now I have to use the statistic as a tool. I would say to my friend, I know it feels slow, but don't give up. James Clear says that if you get just 1% better every day, after a year, you are 37 times better. So just learning 1 new word today is a huge victory. The statistic now has a meaning and a purpose. Finally, I find a quote that I loved. I drew a big star next to it. The quote is, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." What kind of knowledge is this? P-A-C-R. This is a perfect piece of reference material. I don't need to have it memorized perfectly, but I want to be able to find it again. What is the recipe? Store it in a searchable system. So I open my note-taking app on my computer. I have a file called Quotes. I type the quote in, then I add some tags. Systems, habits, goals. Done. It is now stored forever. I can find it anytime I need it. Now look at the difference. Let's compare 2 people. The first person just read the book passively. If you ask them about it, they might say, "Oh, Atomic Habits. It was a good book about habits." And that's it. The second person used our 2-stage system. They have integrated the book into their life. They have a map of the core concepts. They have a plan to practice the actions. They have a deeper understanding of the analogies. They have a way to use the evidence. They have the best quotes saved. This person did not just read a book. They assimilated it. They made it a part of them. They built real, lasting knowledge. This is the payoff. This is the reward for your effort. The time you spend reading is now an investment that pays you back for your whole life with compound interest. You stop being a passive consumer of information. You become an architect of your own understanding. You build a beautiful cathedral of knowledge in your mind, brick by brick, book by book. And that is a structure that will stand strong, a structure that will never be forgotten. So that is the system. It is a simple change, but it is a deep and powerful change. It is a shift away from the old, broken way of learning, the way of passive consumption. And it is a shift toward a new, powerful way of learning, a process of active engagement and deliberate digestion. It is just 2 stages. So simple. First, stage 1, capture, engage. This is where you have a conversation with the book. You write, you question, you connect. And second, stage 2, digest, synthesize. This is where you cook the meal. You process your notes using the PACER method. You practice the procedural knowledge. You create analogies. You map the conceptual ideas. You apply the evidence. And you store the reference material. This system asks for a little extra time, but that small investment of time pays you back so much. It gives you exponential rewards. You will remember more, and you will be able to use what you learn in your real life. This is how you stop wasting your reading time. This is how you make sure the wisdom from books becomes a part of you. So I invite you to try. Stop just consuming. Start digesting. Start building your inner library. Learning is a journey, and like any journey, it takes time. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. You are doing a wonderful job. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. It means the world to me. And please, if you enjoyed our time together, consider leaving a comment or giving this episode a like. It is a small action that helps so much. It helps other English learners find our calm and friendly space. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep being your wonderful self. I will see you next time, my friend. Goodbye for now.